This is part 2. It's not part 3, and it's not part 1, it's part 2. So, you need to watch part 1 first. Well, you don't need to. I thought it was part 3. Now get back out of there. You're not ready yet. It's only part 2. It's me, Nigel, and my girlfriend, Sheila. I'm not his girlfriend. What? Nothing. Excuse me. And I'm back. Yeah, I had to take a break. This is going to be the long version, you know. I mean, I can break it down into 2-part videos and everything instead of linking them together, because that took 10 minutes to get that far. But oh well, you know, things happen. Not everything breaks down into a 10-minute segment in life. Alright, so now what I'm doing is I'm looking at the core itself. I'm going to bring it up here for you to see. Oh, I'm going to turn it around. Now, remind me that I'm zoomed in, because I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. There we go. Alright, so we have some pins that, with no key in them, are overset traps. And that's these, this is the front of the core here, so this is pin 1, 2, pin 3 and 4. Those 2 stacks right there. They're not going to be very effective with anything you put in there, as far as like security pins. So you might as well put a standard pin in there. We don't have standard pins up here. The most we've got is serrated. So we're going to take serrateds, and I'm going to show you what I mean by, let me get the... If you look at a serrated pin, if it's just sitting right here, and none of that pin. Let me get this guy to focus over there. So you see, there's so much glare, you can't really see. It makes contact with it as a driver, but it never touches any of the serrations. All the serrations stay in the Bible, no matter what. With the pin at its resting state, none of those pins are engaging. So a serrated driver over there is perfectly fine. You wouldn't want to try to put a spool in there. You'd be wasting your spool, unless the spool has a really sharp lip on the bottom that might actually engage that. But still, it's not going to be able to tilt and do all of its fun stuff. So for pins 3 and 4, which are overset traps, we want to have serrated. So we've got that up there in the stack of serrated. Now the spool in here in 1, this is a serrated spool. When we set him in 1, you can see that not only is the serration going to engage, but you're going to get some of the spool effect, because he can wobble around. And when you're picking, we're only going to go like this, but he's going to be able to tilt that much. Theoretically, you know, he's going to be able to give you a pretty good little falset. Now, if you had the spool deeper, it could go further, and if you modified the core, if it was like a challenge lock, it could go deeper. But we're just taking a regular lock here and setting it up. So a spool on pin 1 is pretty good. So we're going to leave that like that. Pin 2 is also deep. So we don't have any more spools, but we've got another serrated. So the rest of them are serrated, and that cuts out our decision factor. But if they were spools, we would try to put another spool in the deepest pin stack down here to give yourself the most wobbling. So there, that was 4 minutes of explaining how to set up the pins, but it is important if you want to give it the most advantage. Like I said, if you took this spool and you set it on pin 3, well, there's only 1 spool in all this. You've got 1 spool and 4 serrated pins. So you're never going to get the spool effect out of that. You're never going to get a deep falset. You're just going to get clicks. Now, if you put it in either pin 1, 2, or 5, you've got a chance of that thing becoming and acting like a spool. Otherwise, it's just there for show. I mean, you're not going to do anything with it unless you put it in the right stack. And sometimes, I think these things are keyed up and pinned up by machines. So it's random, and the factories may just throw it in an illogical way. You'll have a spool here and a spool here or something where they're not effective at all. And then you'll have standard pins in areas where you should have had a spool or a security driver. So when you're doing this, you can still keep this lock. It's still a standard lock. It's just that you've made it a little bit more effective by making sure that the security pins do what they're supposed to do and are not there just for show. So there you go. That's another segment. That was only 5 minutes. Eventually we'll have this locked together.